So I heard you want Metroid content. Well, here you go! Man, I remember when Metroid Prime Federation Force was announced at E3 2015, and it was a strange reveal. First, it was demoed during the Nintendo World Championships as only Blast Ball, a game where 2 teams of 3 try to shoot a giant ball into the opposing team's net. Then 2 days later, during their E3 digital event, it was officially announced as Metroid Prime Federation Force, with the additional mode being Metroid Prime Blast Ball. The reaction to this game was viscerally bad. The dislikes on the reveal trailer far outweighed the likes, to the point where Nintendo's own Reggie Fils-Aimé acknowledged the negative reaction, saying there was no sugarcoating it. So why did the fanbase react so strongly to this game? Well, at this point, there hadn't been a new Metroid title in 5 years, which to be fair isn't the longest gap between games, but fans had been so used to frequent Metroid releases throughout the 2000s that this wait time felt unusual. Many were expecting the franchise to return during this E3, just not in the form of a linear co-op shooter with sci-fi sports ball included. You see, Metroid games are all about isolation and atmosphere. They also included some of the most gorgeous visuals of any Nintendo game, nay, video game, period. So you can imagine how disappointed fans were when they basically told us, hey, thanks for waiting 5 years for a new Metroid. Here's a game that includes none of what you like about the series. Oh, and we have something for you Animal Crossing fans later. The game could have theoretically been received better had it not been announced and released during a Metroid drought, but as it is, Federation Force launched in August 2016 to critical and commercial failure, selling only 150,000 copies, which even by Metroid standards is extremely low. This is a bummer because there was actually some solid talent behind this project, such as the development studio Next Level Games, and it was produced by Kensuke Tanabe, who was responsible for the Prime trilogy. He said development began in 2009 for the Nintendo DSi, but it then restarted on the Nintendo 3DS to take advantage of its more powerful specs. He wanted this game to tell the story of the battle between the Galactic Federation and space pirates, which honestly sounds like a cool idea. And you know what? Maybe this game is cool. It could simply be that Federation Force is good on its own. It just came out at the wrong time, back when the future of the Metroid franchise was uncertain. Fast forward to today, we've gotten 3 Metroid games, including the mythical Dread, and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is slated to come out next year. So now that Metroid is in a much better place, I think it's time I finally give this game a fair shot. I'm just gonna boot it up here on my Metroid Samus Returns themed new Nintendo 3DS XL and finally wipe Federation Force from my backlog. Let's see how it is. So that was bad. Before I get into my grievances with Federation Force, allow me to set the stage. The game takes place in Cosmic Year 20X6, and instead of getting into how inconsistent the cosmic calendar is, let's just say it's set right after Metroid Prime 3, where the planet phase was destroyed, wiping out all traces of the element Phazon. However, this victory is not enough for the Galactic Federation, so they initiate Operation Golem to wipe out the rest of the space pirates. This new military campaign consists of the Federation Force, a team of Marines tasked with operating giant mechs modeled after Samus Aran's power suit. They're just slower and clunkier, but they got a mean charge beam. Upon startup, you're immediately thrown into a lengthy training regimen on how to pilot these mechs, where you find out the game sort of controls like Metroid Prime's tank controls on GameCube. If you have a new 3DS, you can use the right nipple to aim vertically, but I never used it since I mainly relied on lock-on. Even still, a fast-moving enemy could avoid your projectiles, which is where the gyro aiming comes in, so you can anticipate where they're going to move. It all sounds great on paper, but in practice, my hands are cramped. It could be I haven't played my 3DS in a while, so I'm just not used to it, or I've grown accustomed to the great twin-stick controls of Metroid Prime Remastered. Going back to this, frankly dated control scheme was not very comfortable, and being on a small handheld doesn't help. Yes, I know, it's an XL model, but handhelds are quite a bit bigger now. The campaign is set in the Bermuda system, home to planets Excelsior, Talvania, and Bion. If these planets had been in a mainline Metroid Prime game, there would be tons of lore and rich backstory behind them. But here, you only get some surface-level stuff. Excelsior plunged into an ice age after a meteor hit it, Bion was home to an ancient race of beings that aren't Chozo, and Talvania is where the Talvanian devil will unleash hell upon the galaxy. Nah, it's just a gas planet. The Federation Force must visit these planets to figure out what dastardly deeds the space pirates are planning. And they even recruit Samus to aid in the investigation. Oh my god, what's wrong with her head?
Look on a mask with my
girl.
This reminds me of how much I hate the game's art style, at least for the human characters, because the rest looks fine, but these chibi humans make this game feel even less like Metroid than it already does. Metroid is arguably Nintendo's most mature franchise, with the Prime series sporting art direction baked in style and realism. So it doesn't feel right that the characters look like they've been ripped out of My Sims. Maybe I'm critiquing this game all wrong. It's not a mainline Metroid Prime game, it's a spin-off in the vein of Hunters and Pinball. Yeah, Metroid Prime got a pinball spin-off and no one batted an eye. Why am I giving Federation Force so much shit for not being enough like Metroid when it's trying to be something different? Well, look, a spin-off can take as many creative liberties as it wants as long as it's still good. And that's the problem. Federation Force is not good. It's not terrible, but it's boring, frustrating, and uninspired. There are 22 missions in the story mode, each with varying objectives like investigating an abandoned facility, shooting balls, shutting down space pirate operations, shooting balls, pushing an ancient grocery cart across the map, shooting a tower in the center of the room. Have we learned nothing from Metroid Prime Hunters? Oh, but at least you can shoot balls. It's like they saw the morph ball puzzles from the other games and thought, how do we make this less interesting? I get that the developers were trying to bring some puzzle elements from the Metroid series into this game, but it didn't always work. The one time it did was during this mission where I had to shoot the balls into cannons to bring down a space pirate vessel. It was honestly the most creative mission of the bunch, and much more riveting than just shooting a ball from one place to the other like a glorified game of mini-golf. That said, a lot of these missions aren't very interesting, often being fetch quests with some enemies sprinkled in there. I don't know how anyone thought pushing a minecart down a track while being interrupted by space pirates and storms would be fun. It's possible these objectives could have been more exciting had they further refined the combat system, since it doesn't feel great due to the non-traditional FPS controls and just being on the 3DS in general. The lock-on helps a bit, but at the same time, it's like playing a game of fish in a barrel. There's not much strategy involved. Each planet has dangerous wildlife that goes down pretty easily aside from the big ones, but space pirates are the most numerous foes, with gunners, flyers, melee-focused ones, and there are cool new types called bruisers that can only be damaged by hitting the green parts of their armor. I mostly dealt with them all using my standard arm cannon, but there are other weapons like missiles, freeze rays, plasma beams, etc. You equip these right before a mission, and you have a weight limit so you can't just collect everything in your stash. If you're playing with a squad of 4, you could evenly disperse this gear between your team, with one player carrying all the energy tanks, the other with the missiles, and so on. This makes me think I probably didn't enjoy the game as much as I could have because I played through it solo. Though it's still perfectly playable for one person, it's designed with up to 4 players in mind, since you'll either be bombarded with enemies at every angle, or there's a puzzle that can be done faster if different players handle certain parts of it. Luckily, there's a mod chip you can install that makes your shields better and weapons more powerful. I thought this was just another version of easy mode, but it's essential if you're playing solo because enemy health is extremely high otherwise. I learned that lesson the hard way when I didn't equip the chip, and I died multiple times, having to restart levels from the very beginning. Yeah, there are no checkpoints, and you are sent back to the mission select screen every time you die. This is where most of my frustrations lie with Federation Force, as too often I was seconds away from finishing a mission, only to fail and be sent all the way back to the beginning. This point would have been illustrated better had I not used someone else's game footage, but trust me, it's infuriating. You know, maybe I should find someone to play this with, at least one other person, and I know just the guy. Gee, Alan, it was sure nice of you to buy an overpriced copy of Federation Force just so you could play with me. I know you were hesitant about doing that at first, but I think you'll find I can be very persuasive.
No, of course, anything for you, dude.
That's the spirit, buddy.
Hey, Joey.
Yes, Alan?
Once we're done here, do you promise to let my family go?
One thing at a time, buddy.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I only got to play one mission with my best friend Alan because my 3DS battery was about to die and there was no charger in sight. While I can say the experience was more fun by the mere fact that I was playing with my best friend Alan, it only really made the game easier and nothing else. I was still doing the same thing I did in solo mode, just with another person. And you know, a game like this should be fun no matter how many players there are. Heck, I played The Division 2, which heavily encourages having co-op partners, and I still had a blast. You can even say I had a ball. Wait. Ah yes, Blast Ball, the mode that was so integral to the Federation Force experience that Nintendo had to include it in most of the trailers. It feels like a response to Rocket League, even though that game came out after Blast Ball's reveal, so I'll just chop it up to a happy accident. But did this mode make me happy from the few matches I played of it? I mean, it was pretty cool. I just kept shooting a ball into the other team's net while they tried frying my ass with some power-ups. The thing is, once you've played a few rounds of Blast Ball, you've seen all this game has to offer. I'm sure this is fun to play with a group of friends once or twice, but you won't see anyone commit their life to this sport in the same way they have Rocket League, or, you know, real soccer. Yeah, I don't have much to say about Blast Ball because there's not much to it. But if you want to see the real Blast Ball, let's talk about the ending to this game, because it is insane. Basically, the events of the story lead to the Galactic Federation discovering that space pirates found technology that, to put it scientifically, makes them bigger. Yep, that's it. They are big space pirates now. The feds also find out about a battleship called Doomseye, which you, the player or players, hijack to try and bring down its force field, but not before discovering that Samus was kidnapped by the space pirate. Okay, hold up. You're telling me that Samus Aran, the bounty hunter that destroyed 2 planets up to this point, somehow got captured by the buffoons known as the Space Pirates? I don't believe that in the slightest. I can't think of an insult bigger than this. I spoke too soon. What in the honey I blew up the bounty hunter is going on? Apparently she's been brainwashed by the pirates and is now taking on the Federation force the only way she knows how, by turning into a ball. Yep, if you couldn't get enough of Blast Ball, the final boss is Samus's Morph Ball. Yes, genius, great job. Here she just boosts her way around the arena, dropping some bombs, doing some Spidey stuff, periodically shrinking in 3 phases until getting crushed by debris, which perfectly represents what many thought happened to the Metroid series in 2016. You might have thought she was the final boss. Well, wait until we get into the next room to find... Wait, is that Mother Brain? Oh, that's actually Master Brain, and it goes down in a few hits, thus deactivating the force field. Turns out, Samus shockingly did not die, wow, surprise, as she saves the Federation force from a space pirate ambush, gets them off the ship, and thanks them for their service. But wait, there was a mission earlier on where you could retrieve a Metroid egg from a facility, and if you do, you'll unlock this secret ending, showing some shady individual breaking into a Galactic Federation facility to hatch that egg. Oh wow, that's Sylix from Hunters, and the end of Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. Surely that means you have to play Federation Force to catch up on the story before 4, right? No, you really don't. Honestly, if I have to choose between playing this game again and this game again, yeah, I hate to say it, but I'm choosing Other M in this case. And that said, I completely despise this game, but at least it doesn't feel like a chore to play. I don't know what happened with Federation Force, because I struggle to find any serious redeeming qualities about it. There are a few good missions here, sure, and Blast Ball is a fun time, if only for a few minutes, but the overall package is just lackluster. The control scheme is uncomfortable, most levels have mundane objectives, and the lack of a checkpoint system is flat out unforgivable. Now, some of you might think I would have liked the game better had I played with 3 other players, but I don't see how that's possible, as it would have just made these boring missions go by faster. Nothing more. Man, if I feel this way now, I can't imagine how I would have felt had I suffered through it during release, before I knew about the existence of Metroid Prime 4. Back then, I played about 2 levels and put it away because it wasn't the Metroid game I wanted. And now, 8 years later, it isn't even the Metroid spin-off I wanted. What can I say? I went in with an open mind, and in the end, Federation Force just wasn't for me. In the meantime, I'll be waiting with bated breath for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and I just seriously hope that they don't acknowledge the events of Federation Force. And they say Ridley was too big for Smash.